Well, I got to tell you, I didn't know if this had happened. My voice is at a 60%. Your finger is at a certain percentage.
Not 100.
I didn't know if this was going to be a show, pal.
I'll tell you what, I didn't know either. For those on the stream, you're number one. I had an accident last night. And this happens to all of us, supposedly. All of us, who dabble in the culinary arts at one point or another.
Sure.
Will have what we call a kitchen accident. And mine, almost 44 years on the planet, I'd escaped any type of significant kitchen incident. I've had, minor cuts here or, some oil hop up and burn me, but who hasn't, right? That's living. But last night, I decided to take a part of my finger in a basil chopping incident.
We're in the middle of some basil. We have some nice fresh basil.
That's right.
As we know with you, you like to shop day of for your ingredients.
That's right.
You're a big day of guy.
Yes.
So you go out to your grocer and you get yourself some fresh basil and you say, we're going to chop this up because we're going to make what? What are we making?
So
let's paint a picture for the people.
I will paint a picture for the people. So yesterday we had a couple of our good friends over, Tom and Kathy Feudy. They were coming over, and this had been many months in the making. Tom's wife, Kathy, is a bolognese aficionado, a connoisseur, if you will.
Oh, I love a bolognese.
And so I had talked about my bolognese, and they said, okay, we're going to bring some good old Italian wines. We had some great Pinots as well.
Yep.
We're going to bring that over, and you're going to make the bolognese, and we're going to have a great night. And so that's what happened. So I knew I had to step up my game a little bit. So I made about 6 hours ahead of time. I did go to the grocery store, or maybe 6.5 hours, went to the grocery store. They did not have my turkey sausage that I normally do in my bolognese. So I said, you know what? We're just going for it. So I got real Italian sausage, which I typically don't do.
Oh, boy.
I got real ground beef. I normally do turkey because I'm like, we need to get the flavors just right. Yep. I got about a 3/4 of a pound of tenderloin tips that I chopped up into little
oh my gosh, of course,
beauties,
little nuggets.
And then I had them take a marrow bone, a big full marrow bone, and chop it up into like 4 1-inch thick discs. So we get the bolognese going. So that's good. Then we get all of our San Marzanos in there. 1 little can of stewed tomatoes. I like to have that for the little texture. The baby bellas, the carrot, a little brown sugar as a little secret ingredient. Probably about half a bottle of Chianti in various times as we go through to get it in there. And then the secret ingredient is I had saved from the last time we made beef soup. Saved a couple cups of beef soup broth. Boom, right in there.
Sure.
So all that's going on, garlic, the whole deal. So that cooks for six hours. It smelled. They walked in the house. When they walked in, they're like, oh, my God. She went right to it. I offered an early taste. She went right for it. Kathy went right for it. She's like, oh, God, I'm excited now. Now we're excited. So yesterday was nice. So we were able to sit outside for a little bit. We were able to have a little champagne outside with some we had some prosciutto wrapped around melon and some crab cakes.
Decadent. With
a nice Sauvignon Blanc. And then, we moved into some delicious Pinots and whatnot. And so, we're having a great evening. Things couldn't be going better.
Having a great time.
It's
spring in Ohio.
The time is now come for the bolognese. And what do you need to finish off the bolognese? Is we're serving over some fresh bucatini, a fresh bucatini, which is the best long noodle in the world. Jeez. So I go, and we've got to grate the Parmesan. We got a grater. We got a block of the Parmigiano Reggiano, right from the motherland there. That's going, and then I'm like, well, I got to chop up a little basil. Now, should I just rip the basil? In hindsight, absolutely. Or just not cut my finger off with the basil. But as we're going through, all of a sudden it's, and there is.
Do you know right away? Do you know right away how bad it is, or do you think, I just skimmed it? Or are you aware that we've got DEFCON 1?
So at the time, I can't say that I was aware of how bad it was because my focus was on the bolognese. So it happens. Yeah,
you've been putting in hours, 6 hours of bolognese.
It happens. Now, the reactions of the others would indicate to somebody that this had been serious. No, I knew it was bad. We're talking about spurting, there.
Oh, the blood was flying around.
And there was a piece of my finger that was big enough that it could be picked up off the ground and placed in.
Oh my God!
Into the freezer with some milk and and all that. So it was not a. Jenks is just walking by like this with. So yeah, swag. So senior swag, you gotta love it. So at this point, there's like you've got to go to the hospital, like you've got to be going to the ER, and I'm like, what do you mean? That ends the night. Like this bolognese is we're 6 hours in. So immediately Miss K and Kathy, they come to me, let's get this under control. The next thing I know, I'm getting like hydrogen peroxide thrown on me. I'm getting Neosporin squirted onto me. I'm getting 38 Band-Aids wrapped around like a tourniquet and like, okay. Sure. I'm fine. I'm like, okay. Like it hurt, but it wasn't crazy. It was nothing that I couldn't manage at the time. So I was just walking by and laughing at me. It's great. I mean, this is a pretty ridiculous bandage that my mom came up with.
Ridiculous.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So, and this is great. So Tom had texted me in the morning, and he goes, the women went and they tended to you, and I tended the bolognese. So he's over there stirring the bolognese, making sure that it's not ready. It gets plated. It's great. Everybody's loving it. We're having a great time. And then I went to sleep, didn't wake me up in the night, didn't feel a lot of pain, but I was like, I knew something significant had happened.
Sure, yeah.
So this morning I get up and I'm like, all right, I have to take these off. We'll look at it, redress it, clean it out again if we need to, antiseptic, whatever. So I'm peeling Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid. There were probably about 12 Band-Aids that were on this finger when it was all said and done. And I'm unraveling this, this beautiful, this artistry really of healing that was done. And we get to the last Band-Aid, which is now the Band-Aid that's actually was on the wound itself.
I'm nervous about this.
And it immediately becomes clear that this Band-Aid is stuck like glue to the wound.
Oh, God, not the cloth. The cloth isn't,
the
but
cloth.
rather the
yes.
The cloth has adhered to the wound. They've grown together.
Oh,
dear God.
So my mom, who was a wound nurse, I have her come over, and I'm like, this is not good. So she's like, all right, we'll soak it in water for a little bit. So I'm soaking in water. I'm making some progress, but every millimeter that pulls feels like I'm being stabbed with 1,000 knives. I mean, incredibly painful.
You have the official Nana of CBD now at your side.
That's right.
The wound nurse is at your side.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're being helped by the best and the brightest.
We are, but you know how nurses are too. The first thing she does is like, oh, she's like trying to wrap something on it and pushes right into it. And I'm like on the floor crying. Not ashamed to admit it. Tears were coming down. It was that painful. And I'm just like kicking the ground. It was awful. So fast forward about an hour and a half of this soaking. She's telling me she's getting tired of me. She's like, we're ripping this thing off. And I'm like, you are not ripping this off. Let me be very, very clear about this. Like, that's not happening. So then and plus we're saying, should we go into the ER? Whatever. I get it to the point where I get enough of it off that now I can see it. Like, I can see what's happened. And I freaked out. Because in my mind, when I went to sleep last night, I didn't know any of the nail was gone. I thought it was just kind of like on the side, off of the side.
Sure.
Because at the time, there's a lot coming out of it. You're not getting a look at it, per se.
Right.
So now I get this first look at it, and then I freaked out. I was like, I'm never golfing again. I'm touching where my finger should be, and it's gone. I'm like, I've cleaved off like half of my finger.
Oh, my God.
I was freaking out. So after about 90 minutes soaking, I finally am able to get this thing off. And I look at it, and it's the picture I sent you, and I'm just like, oh, my God. So my mom had this idea, which she said works. And, again, she was a wound nurse, so I'm not going to doubt her. But that the way that I would get it to stop bleeding was by putting my finger, because this thing came off, but I still had to do some exertion, not pleasant. So, of course, it's bleeding again. So I got the finger now in a bowl of water, which she says that helps it clot up. This is, I don't know if you've heard this. Is this what you did out on the Ponderosa? Is this how you dealt with these situations?
I don't recall. No, the tourniquets was typically the situation.
Yeah, or I recall, hey, let me put some pressure on it.
Right.
With some Neosporin and a gauze pad.
But again,
So
wound nurse.
Official
Nana. Yeah, she knows.
So it's in this water. And what's kind of cool about a wound that is actively bleeding in rhythm with your heartbeat, mind you, is that you can see little, it looks like a plume of smoke, but it's blood coming out in this water. After 20 minutes, I'm like, Mom, this is not working. Like,
this ain't it.
This is not happening. And I'm like, my finger's down, so we're forcing, gravity is helping all the blood go out of this. I'm like, this is not working. I said, I'm taking it out, I'm putting pressure on it. I said, you're not touching it after what you've already done. I'll put the pressure.
You're the bitch.
So I do that. We were almost at the emergency. She's like, we're going to have to go to the emergency room. And I'm like, well, then I can't do the show. I said, the show must go on. Just like last night. Right. This didn't stop Bolognese.
No.
Turns out it was a night worth giving a finger for. I'd do it again if I had to. Now, I'd like to be more careful, not give a finger, and still have a great night. Sure. Worth it? Sure. Absolutely. So then I get it stopping, and now it's wrapped up, and it's in this crazy thing. So tomorrow I'll go to the doctor, and there's nothing they can do.
No, I think you're just going to be without the tip. Your left point index finger is going to be less.
Forever though, or do you think it'll grow back?
Yeah, I think so. Well, you're not a snake.
Yeah, but I grew back one finger already.
What?
Yeah, when I was a kid, this finger, my ring finger on my right hand, look how much shorter it is. See how my ring finger right here is shorter?
Yeah.
See that?
You lost a finger?
So as a kid, I was at my babysitter's, and they had those old school folding chairs that were spring loaded.
Oh, no.
And my hand was like on the side of the chair, and the spring went up, and it chopped it right above the knuckle, but nail everything. Like the full tip of my finger was gone. Like everything above that knuckle.
Oh, then maybe it will regenerate.
Gone. And it grew right back. It's a little shorter, but it grew back. So what I'm hoping for tomorrow.
That's stunning.
What I'm hoping for tomorrow is that when I go in, they're like, all right, we're going to put one of those second skin bandages on you that you keep on for like 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then in 2 weeks you'll be good to go. That's what I'm hoping for.
Wow.
I don't know if they are going to say that though. I don't want this anymore. What a night.
No, that's tough.
Tell you what.
We're on it. We have texts from Senior Swag. Like I can't even respond to them because I'm using the phone for FaceTime, so I don't even know what's being said. No, this is quite the moment in the building, apparently.
People are really. Do you want to know what his text says? Says he's going to stop in for a high 4.75, not a high 5. Oh, that's elite. Take a bow.
That's very good.
Take a bow. That's good.
That's very strong. Oh, wow. What a weekend then for you. What a time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here, buddy. I mean, I am not with you.
No. You're battling your own things.
I've got my own issues that I'm dealing with, and at many points over the weekend I had no voice. So I'm thrilled to be able to have what I would consider like a 67% of my voice right now.
Yeah.
And I think if managed correctly, we're going to be just fine. We'll go over some of the highlights of the weekend as the program goes along. We should get you some news though, and we do have some.
That's right.
Beyond the fact that you've lost part of an appendage.
But we've gained a chief. Worth it. I would make that trade.
Chief.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. So David Njoku has been franchise tagged by the Browns. This makes sense for a lot of things. You can, as I understand this now, you can continue to work on a long-term extension.
Yes.
It's been in the works anyway.
Exactly.
But this just locks him in for another year. And with tight ends, it just makes all sorts of sense in the world because the number's like 10.8, so it's in great place.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing, and I think that the Chief, the strides he made last year as a blocker were apparent. He led the team in touchdowns with 4. He had the longest touchdown reception of any tight end all season, the 71-yarder catch and run against the Chargers. I think he is a weapon that is waiting to just break out. And let's not forget, this is a young guy still, even though he's been in the league 5 years, he's still in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
He's 25, 26, so I think that the Chief has a chance too. And when you're going to franchise tag him, I think that means his role's going to increase. And we talk about that a little bit with Coach Stefanski at the Combine. So I'm looking for a big, big year from the franchise Chief. And as you pointed out very accurately, this says you're definitely here. And now we have more time to continue working on figuring out this extension that will keep you here for a long, long time.
I'll tell you, I mean, it's amazing what a couple of years has done. Remember, there was the ask to be traded.
Yep.
And nobody ever wanted that. You just didn't ever want that. Like he's always been such a good dude, and always felt like he was going to be a critical part of whatever success this franchise had. That he would play a critical role in it. And to see how far both sides have come during those 2 years, new representation for him from that point, and a lot's changed, obviously. But now perhaps a real focal point of this offense going forward, and to know that he'll be locked in and for both next year for sure, and then hopefully a long-term deal as well. That's good drafting. It's good developing. It's putting yourself in a chance to succeed going forward long-term.
Yeah, I love that. And then in addition to tagging the Chief, the Browns also extended tenders to 3 exclusive rights free agents, wide receiver Jamarcus Bradley and offensive lineman Blake Hance and Michael Dunn. What that means is they're here. If they can make the team now, but they will definitely be with the Browns during training camp. If you tender an exclusive rights free agent, that means that they're yours, and so they will be with the Browns with a chance to make the roster. And, Hance played a big role last year for the Browns, doing things that he wasn't necessarily, trained to do as an interior offensive lineman, starting at both right tackle and left tackle. Did a great job. Dunn, of course, was the hero in that playoff game in Pittsburgh, filling in for Joel Bitonio at left guard and playing great against Cam Hayward. And Jamarcus Bradley's been a solid receiver for the Browns and a guy that, has the trust of his coach, Chad O'Shea. He runs the routes the way that they want them to be run. So the one question from a tagging standpoint that remains, or a tender standpoint that really remains out there, is Ernest Johnson. And we know that his people and the Browns talked at the Combine. And the question will be, do they re-sign him? Do they tender him at a second-round level? Or will he become an unrestricted free agent? And I know that they would like to keep him here. So my guess is it'll either be a deal reached, or they'll tender him at that second-round level. Because he can't do, he wasn't drafted, so you can't. If you do an original round tender, basically it means that there's nothing. You'd get nothing back if somebody else signs it.
Right. It's got to be that way in order for it to make a little bit of sense. We will put the Combine in perspective, the impressive stuff over the weekend. Lots going on in the sports world as well. We will get to all of that. How the NFL will be televised and who will be calling those games. Some clarity on that. Coming up in the next hour and a half or so of the program. The great Jim Donovan will join us at 2 o'clock. We are off and running here with 4.75 of Z's left hand. What a line that is.
That's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. OBM, Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider of your Cleveland Browns. They have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. The Combine came and went. It was the last one that is contractually obligated to be held in Indianapolis. Now that you've done it again this year, where do you sit? Because I do get Indy fatigue, but at the same time, it kind of possesses everything that you need in a combine. And I think if it wasn't a 5-hour drive for me, I probably would feel a little different.
So, did you see what Peter King said?
I missed it, no.
Peter King said he spoke with a high-ranking NFL official, and that NFL official said that it will be don't bet on it leaving Indy next year. So we should have one more year in Indy before it moves anywhere, if it ever does. I think that I enjoy Indy. I mean, look, my drive home was the stuff of nightmares. Took so long. But I like it there. I love that you can walk everywhere. Everything is convenient. Everything is easy. Yeah. And so going to, as we've talked about many times, an L.A. or a Dallas, it's just not going to be that easy. And you're not going to see all the people that you see. And, yes, while we would both agree that is it a top 10 steakhouse we've ever been to? No. But it's great in Indy. It's tradition. It's fun. You got Elmo's. Nada is great. The Hoff just told me about a new place that we need to add to our rotation that's an Asian fusion, which is right up my alley. And he said it was great. I love that. So, you know, we've got good food. We've got that going for us. So sad about our sushi place, but maybe, you know, they'll figure that out. We'll get sorted there. I like it. I hear you would think, like, Vegas is a place that you can't stay for more than 72 hours. Because
no, I don't think there's any way you could ever go there just from the amount of trouble the prospects to get into. It's just too easy.
Too easy, for sure. And I think that'd be it'd be a tough place. But I also think Indy is a place that you don't want to go for more than 72 hours either, for the exact opposite reason. In Vegas, there's so much to do. You're just going to be so banged up. But in Indy, there's so little to do that you've maximized it. I feel like you've played all the greatest hits within 72 hours.
There are certain things you check off the box. I mean,
and then you're ready to go.
I did the Hoosiers gym, for God's sakes. Like, we did everything. A couple years ago, I went to Hinkle Fieldhouse. So, I mean, like, you've done kind of all of the things. I think the one thing the NFL has to be a little careful about here is if they turn this into a for-profit enterprise, I think that could get a little risky. Because if they're trying to do like a bid situation, have cities bid on it for profit, I think then does that potentially then make prospects say, well, we're not going to come unless you compensate us? I think that's
possibly
kind of a tricky thing.
I also think that if you take it out of Indy and things are not easy for coaches to get around to, I think you're going to see far fewer coaches go. We already started to see that a little bit this year.
Yes.
I think the move to making the Combine a full-on TV product is not loved by the teams. It's not loved by the players. You're seeing, you know, like you saw the running backs didn't do the shuttle drills because it was so many hours after they ran the 40. The bench for the receivers was like early in the morning of the day they ran the 40 at night. So no receivers really did the bench. I think 3 of them maybe. So it becoming this crazy TV property and doing it all in primetime, I think has caused a lot of logistical issues for people. And it definitely is. That has, I think, really taken away from the fun of the Combine and the opportunity to be out at night where everybody's out, everybody's having a good time. You see all the coaches. You can talk to people, you know, that we've come across in all of our, you know, our years and time here. And you can learn some stuff. Like, that's where it all happens. That part of it is gone.
Yep.
And that, I think, is a big loss, and that's due strictly to the prime time of the, you know, having everything be geared around prime time. Which is why when people said, you know, it's funny, you know, why'd you guys leave once the on-field drills started? Well, the on-field drills you can watch on TV. They're in prime time. We're not on in prime time. Our show isn't. You'll probably learn as much about what happened there from being on TV, and you're not going to have the opportunity to talk to people about what happened there. So the big stuff is being there early in the week when we can talk to our coach and our GM, and then you get, you know, all the people, the media people milling about. That's what's valuable. And so
it's not like you and I were going into Lucas Oil and watching guys run anyway. We weren't allowed to do that anyway.
Correct.
So what good is it for us to to do that. I mean, there's no value there. Guys, the Combine, for everybody who is there except for the coaches and general managers and scouts, it's an information sharing event.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yep.
It's what do you know? What are you hearing? And that stuff is done early in the week, and it used to be done a little bit later. It would continue throughout the week. But to your point, when they moved all of the testing into prime time, then you lost that. You lost it. So you lose a great deal of it. So it really, I thought the best night over there in terms of C and B scene was probably, Monday or Tuesday. Now, because even in years past when we had gone for 4 nights or whatever, it still felt like as soon as they went to the primetime schedule, the best stuff was early in the week.
Yep.
That was when your best information was shared.
Yep. And I feel that that's very much still the same. And I think that the Combine as the event that it once was just isn't going to exist under this current format. So the question is, does the league care? No, because it is a for-profit thing, and now it's become a tentpole television event again.
Yep.
I'll be curious. I don't know what the ratings were. I'd be curious about that.
I haven't seen any. Usually they trumpet them out pretty big if they're
worth trumpeting. Sure.
Yeah.
I thought that they're playing music so loud during some of the drills that the teams couldn't hear who was actually going up. They weren't putting the official stuff. Apparently there were a lot of things that were done as it becomes even more and more of a TV event that were not good for the teams. They ended up having to turn that music off. The discrepancies that were happening with the new timer, especially with the receivers.
The wide receiver stuff on Thursday.
The Olave thing is crazy. Just insane. Like, that's an insane error.
A 0.13?
Yeah. And he didn't run again
a lot.
Because he's like, I don't need to run again. That was incredible. So
this is what I need, a straight downpour.
Yesterday was so great, and it's so sad
Saturday was flawless too.
Gone so quickly.
It is pouring here. I don't know where the water's going to go. We're at that time of year. I'm thankful for the weekend. The weekend was great. And
wonderful.
And this is why sometimes I'm too hard on March, but at least March gives you those 2 days. Now, we might not have another good one for 2 weeks, but for 2 days at least we got a great weekend. So I'm not going to crush this too bad, other than to say I wouldn't be surprised if we have some flooding, because this is pretty aggressive. I think the only city that I've been to in North America that can – 2 thoughts on Indy. Number one, I think the only city you could go to that would have a similar situation, the only thing I don't know about is the medical side of it, if that would be as convenient, is Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Minneapolis would have – now, Minneapolis is bigger than Indy, but Minneapolis would have a centralized downtown with an ability to get there with all of the sky bridges and walks and never go outside and be able to congregate. You could definitely get more lost. Indy's downtown is actually quite small, and it's from the standpoint of when you're there, you feel like the NFL is the only one there, is what it feels like.
Yes.
That wouldn't be that way in Minneapolis. You get lost a little bit. And then I don't know, like the Mayo Clinic is obviously in Minnesota, but I don't know like how close they are to like stadium and stuff. And I don't know if they have a convention center the way Indy does. I don't know if they're as good of a convention town.
Indy's unbelievable. It's all right there. And birds.
Oh, of course.
What a treat.
Birds are unbelievable. Now, we don't know what the laws are on birds necessarily. No. I don't know if they're all that safe, but they're fun. I would say New Orleans would have it, but again, then you're looking at the other side of it with New Orleans. It might be a little too much fun.
Sure.
But it would have that ability to where you come in, big convention center, close to downtown, Tulane Medical Center there. New Orleans would have that. But I believe it's also Mardi Gras. It's Fat Tuesday was last week. So, it would be right in the thick of that, and you don't want the NFL coming in on that weekend. You'd almost have to leave the Combine.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking, as I was thinking about Indy, is it is pretty stunning that the rest of the Midwest has punted on that. That there's not another city in this part of the country that said, hey, if you build a big fancy dome with a convention center and hotels, you can host a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like the Combine, like the NCAA basketball tournament, like the College Football National Championship. I think Detroit probably was thinking that, but they tried, but they probably blew it a little bit on everything around Ford Field.
Yep.
And the reality is there's not another city that has looked at Indy and said, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that is stopping them from doing it.
No.
It's crazy.
Detroit's a good call. So you have that, what's that tower, that hotel that's like the big tower up, and then that's attached to the convention center, which I think you can get to Ford Field. But the rest of the area around there doesn't feel as nice as Indy does at all.
No.
So,
no, not at all. No. And, Chicago has always punted on it. We don't have an indoor. We don't have that. We would have it if we had a dome. We have everything else.
Yeah, everything else is right there.
We got all the hotels. You got the convention center. You got everything else. You just don't have the indoor. The indoor stadium. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. Like, you think about all of the teams. St. Louis, not in the NFL anymore, but you get the point. Kansas City. There's nothing. There's nothing.
No.
It's Indy has it to themselves. And it's amazing the city planning they had to make it that easy, to have these great hotels, to have everything close, to build that stadium. I mean, they needed Manning to do it. He did it, but there's really nobody who can threaten him. Minnesota's the only one I could think of that kind of would have potentially a similar feel to it, but that's it. I couldn't think of anybody else.
Yeah, and I don't remember what people's reviews of the Super Bowl were that were there.
I think they were good.
Was it good?
Yeah, I think they did well.
Yeah, because Detroit, but the truth is, just having the dome gets you a chance to have these events. The other stuff maybe gets you more, but even Detroit's gotten to have Super Bowls, WrestleManias, Final Fours.
WrestleMania. Yeah. Detroit's had, I think 2 Final Fours and 1 Super Bowl. So yeah, you do that, and then you open things up. And if the college football playoff happens, and you heard the Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith 2 weeks ago say, hey, if we host a playoff game, it's likely going to be at Indy. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You would take that money out of the state of Ohio and give it to Indiana because you want to play in a dome. It's nuts, man. Someone's got to step up and get that done. I'd love to see it because they've cornered the market on it for sure. Hard to imagine them leaving, and good to hear that they at least won't be leaving for next year. I just don't think the options are as good as everybody thinks. We will go around the league coming up next. We have a second. The franchise tags are going to start coming in. We have one in Kansas City that's pretty interesting. We'll get to that. And it does feel like at some point we're going to have something on Aaron Rodgers. We'll get to that coming up as well. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Well, you're thinking about upgrading your enterprise operating system, but you can't afford the downtime and disruption that goes for a major overhaul. Beau Bishop here for my friends at EOX Vantage. Their data scientists are also business operations experts. Your EOX Vantage team does not take a rip-and-replace approach to improving your operating system. Instead, they help you build onto what you already have, so you make the best use of your investments, both old and new. Fearing your employees will stress out over new systems, EOX Vantage works to ensure your people can easily adapt their new workflow at a comfortable pace. You can start out by making easily manageable changes and add on more when the time is right. Read how other business owners have overhauled their systems without overwhelming their people at eoxvantage.com. I recommend that tremendously. They are going to make your business work smarter, and that is a big, big win for you. Before we get to the NFL, did you watch? Well, I guess you were all chopped up, so you didn't see it. So did you? Have you heard about the Winning Time show on HBO with the Lakers?
I've heard of it. I've seen the ads for it. I did not watch it last night, obviously. And
are you interested in it?
Kind of. If it's well done.
So that is a little bit troubling, I would think, for them, because I would think you would be the target.
Yeah.
You're a sports fan.
Check.
You're aware of that era in the NBA.
Quite.
And you would be aware of that, of what would come of that type of lifestyle. So I would think you saying somewhat would be troubling if I were an executive at HBO.
Yeah, I think it's we've seen kind of these types of shows be done, and typically it's been more in a movie form.
Yeah.
And I think that works well. Like, as a series, am I going to be that into it? You know, I don't know. What did you think of it?
So I would say that the most, in terms of the feel of it, it felt like Boogie Nights. Like the way it was, produced and directed and presented, it seemed like Boogie Nights.
Okay.
Like it had that feel to it. Like it felt like you walked into 1979 LA.
Okay.
Is what it felt like. It was really fun. It's really fun. It's really enjoyable. I think what I didn't have any I grew up a Lakers fan, and these aren't spoilers, but like I had no idea that Jerry West was as prickly as he was.
Okay.
And I mean, he's ultra wound tight.
Okay.
Really wound tight. And one of the things that I was certainly not aware of, and I don't know if I just never sought it out or if it was something that, I've read about everything you can read about that era, and certainly about Magic, because he was my favorite athlete ever. I was unaware that Jerry West was pretty staunch in not drafting Magic Johnson.
Did not know that.
Most people give him credit for that. When you think about his resume as the greatest front office guy of all time, most people give him credit for the drafting of Magic Johnson. He had no interest in it, none, according to this. And this is based on Jeff Pearlman's book. They get the basketball part of it. There's only so much you can do. Magic Johnson's 6'9". Like the guy looks similar to Magic, and he kind of moves similar to him, and has a similar mannerisms. We're all so familiar with Magic that it's hard to.
Yeah.
But it's believable. It's believable. The guy that got to play Kareem is pretty believable in terms of, he's not 7'3", but in terms of, kind of the prickly demeanor of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at that time. I'll tell you, you're either going to love it, or I think the reason you'd love it is John C. Reilly as Jerry Buss. It's pure joy.
He's great.
It's pure joy. It's absolute pure joy.
Okay.
How all of that came about. I want to wreck it. I'm not going to wreck it for you, but this stuff's easily found. I had no idea that he bought the Lakers, the Forum, and the LA Kings from Jack Kent Cooke for $67 million.
Jeez.
Lakers, Kings, building, $67 million. Adjusted for inflation, $240. I would think the Lakers alone are worth close to $5 billion now.
I was going to say, I think that worked out pretty well
on their own. So the business of it is pretty. I think you'd like it. I think it's not like.
Is it an hour?
Something. It's an hour.
And how many episodes?
I can't imagine they can do more than 10.
Okay.
I can't imagine that. There's a lot of breaking the fourth wall where, like, Jerry West talks to you directly, or like Jerry Buss talks to you directly. Like, that happens. But that's kind of Adam McKay's style. It's good. It's good. I think it feels like they're landing it's really fun more than anything else. Like, it's not, I mean, how serious can any of it be? I mean,
right.
It's basketball, But like Norm Nixon, there's some funny stuff with Norm Nixon that is pretty good. The cameos are good. Yeah, I think they got a chance to land the plane on it. I do. I think you'd like it.
So do they have any, like, does anybody actually play themselves? Because I realize it's way back, but, like, the cameos, like, does Jack Nicholson make a cameo, even though Jack Nicholson's probably a character?
No, at this point, the Lakers are nothing.
Okay.
Like, it starts with him leading, it starts with Jerry Buss leaving the Playboy Mansion, and one of the bellhops at the Playboy Mansion is like, are you guys ever going to win? Like, you'd forgotten, like, the Lakers only won one championship from the time they moved to L.A. until 1979. They only won one.
Yeah.
They lost to Celtics all the time.
Yep.
So they had only won the one. So they really had won much. They were barely hanging on from a financial standpoint, barely.
Wow.
So there was a lot of stuff like that was really smart. And then Buss had the vision to make it, and they're just starting, the first episode just kind of lays the groundwork for what he's going to do long term. But I also didn't know this. I did not know that Magic Johnson had the ability up until the draft to go back to Michigan State and actually use that as a negotiating ploy. Like, to be like, no, man, I'll just go back for my junior year. I don't need this.
Wow.
Which was pretty wild. So there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and I felt like I knew everything about it.
So it's not it really is in some ways a documentary, but it's done with actors, or is it a lot of it sensationalized? Because it feels like you're talking about
I think
like
it's the latter.
Okay.
It's a television show.
Okay.
I think you and I probably know, and I probably know about as much about that era as anybody in Cleveland, Ohio ought to. But if you have some appreciation for that time in sports, I think you'll really enjoy it. I do.
Okay. All right.
I think it's tricky when you don't use. I'll also say this. I was reading last night. Jeannie Buss, Magic, and Kareem, none of them wanted it done. So it gives you an idea of probably hits a little too close to home for some of them.
Right. Right.
So.
Interesting.
But it's fun. I think you'd like it. Just in the last, in terms of where we are right now on the franchise tags, we mentioned Chief and getting that locked in. The second franchise tag of the year is from Kansas City,
Yep.
the Chiefs, as opposed to Chief. Orlando Brown is the one there, and it means that theoretically, it means that the Honey Badger is going to hit free agency. So he will be a free agent. I've heard a lot of stuff as well in terms of Godwin and Mike Williams also being tagged today for those two teams.
It feels like those guys aren't going to go anywhere, and the Packers obviously, from what we've heard, will not let Devontae Adams be going anywhere, so I don't know if that'll end up with a tag or if that'll be a deal. The Rodgers part of it needs to be done. And look, he's got to do it tomorrow, right?
It has to be.
I mean, he's running out of time.
Yeah.
He took his spite week.
Right.
But other than that, he's got to get it going.
He's got to do it by the end of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't Friday the deadline? The 10th?
Yes.
There's a Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 8, 9, yeah. I mean, it's time. It's go time. So he's got to do it. What did you make of the Rappaport report over on Friday night at 9 o'clock, mind you, that he was still undecided? I mean, every single person we talked to over there said it's done.
Done.
He's coming back, it's done.
And then you get, now it was Pittsburgh, Denver, Green Bay, and there was one other team that he was considering. Those were the four that had come out.
I know it.
And I was like, what? That was not what anybody was talking about at the Combine.
No. And I'm going, how could Pittsburgh possibly, what's the give back? This is the biggest difference. And today is actually the anniversary of the day when the Colts cut Peyton Manning. Today's the day. In 2012 or whatever. Well, here's the difference. They cut Peyton Manning.
Yep.
The Packers aren't going to cut Aaron Rodgers.
No, you're going to have to compensate them.
You're going to have to compensate them. So if you're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers, if you're Denver and you want to trade for Aaron Rodgers, understand that Jerry Jeudy is going to go to Green Bay. among others.
Or
Probably 3 ones.
Yeah.
Are going to Green Bay.
Yep.
Which is that wasn't the case in Indy. Like Manning was able to go to Denver because the Colts cut him because they were getting Andrew Luck. That's not the same here.
And isn't that with Brady as well? Wasn't Brady was a free agent, was just a pure free agent.
Yes. His last deal, as I remember it, was exactly that. It set him up for true free agency.
And so he chose to go to Tampa without hurting Tampa. That's the thing that's tough with Rodgers and even, with Russ, that it's going to cost a lot. And like it'll cost so much more than what Stafford cost.
Yeah.
And you had, obviously, in L.A., you had a team that was very comfortable not having draft picks. That's kind of been, in some ways, their philosophy about it. But, yeah, I don't see how any of those things happen. And yeah, like we said, the Combine, it was Green Bay. And, Albright felt like it was, if not Green Bay, it would be Denver. But most likely it was Green Bay or nothing. And that he was going to play in Green Bay. That it was a done deal.
Yeah, it's hard to find a path anywhere else unless Green Bay just did him a solid and just said, but why would they do that?
Well, why would they do that?
He's our most valuable asset.
Right. So it's a strange situation, and it needs to be resolved quickly. I mean, the most likely thing and the thing that makes the most sense is that for he and Davante Adams to both go back to Green Bay together.
Yeah, but it's also the other part of it that's fascinating is it's going to hamstring them. Because if he does, everything we were hearing was like 50 million.
Yep.
So if it's 50 and he resets the quarterback market, that's going to hamstring them in terms of who else they'll be able to sign and keep.
Well, that's why Zadarius Smith is going to end up being available, who's a great pass rusher. It does. It's certainly not the way that Brady would do his contracts so that he could continue to win Super Bowls. And for a team that's had a lot of regular season success but has not had a lot of postseason success, you would think that you would want to try and get, your roster loaded up enough that you would be able to do that. Because the thing that I find odd about it is it about the glory for him or is it about money?
I don't know.
And it feels like at this point it's about the money.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that is the way that it's if that's the deal he signs, then it is. He'd be smarter to take less. If it's about winning a Super Bowl, you would take less and then make it up with Jake with State Farm.
Yep.
I mean, that would be the way that you'd make that right, and you'd go compete. So I don't know, but the clock's ticking. I would have thought this would have been done a long time ago. He said he wasn't going to draw it out. Said he didn't want the attention. Yet continues to seek attention. The idea that the Rappaport story got out on was it Friday at 9 o'clock at night in the middle of the testing kind of tells you all you need to know on that front. So it's wild times indeed. Rumpke Waste Recycling, family owned and operated. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll become part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. The great Jim Donovan will join us coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. While the weather is cold and wet outside, a nice hot bath or shower would feel amazing, and you can transform your bathroom into a custom bath. It'll feel like a spa. They can do it for you in about a day. That's my friends at the Bath Authority. They can do it for you at a fraction of the cost of the competitors as well. The Bath Authority is Cleveland's premier bath and shower remodeler. Expert factory-trained installers, the largest selection of bath projects, all made in the United States. Change your bathroom from outdated to outstanding. Acrylic tubs that insulate and keep the heat in. Tub-to-shower conversions. Superior products with expert installers. Give them a call now, 216-220-8399. If you do so, you get $500 off your next custom bath or shower remodel. Go to thebathauthority.com. Again, that number, 216-220-8399. With that, we head out on the hotline to visit with our great friend. First time in a while since we talked to the voice of your Cleveland Browns, the great Jim Donovan, joining us on the hotline. Jimmy, when I see all of this muck and mud, I think of ponies, buddy. What are you doing? How are we doing out on the Ponderosa?
Boy, I got to tell you guys, it's good to be with you again.
Yes.
And it has been a long, cold, icy winter out here on the farm. And I'll tell you what I've been doing, Beau, looking for shoes out in the pasture. Because when it gets mucky like this, and you really described it so perfectly, they lose their shoes. So you got to go out. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. I'm getting pretty good at it, though.
Man, I'm going to send the boys out there. We'll put them a couple of feet apart and just canvas the property.
Yes.
They'll help you find some shoes.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. I was doing like tight rows going up and down and up and down. And finally, it was like a pot of gold. I found a couple of shoes.
That'd be a great eureka moment right there.
It is.
We've got it. Well, Jim,
I was saying some things, but not eureka.
Well, Jim, some of those things was probably that you were saying is how many of us felt when the season came to an end, and it was very disappointing, but now we've had some time to move on from it, and then also to have the calendar kind of turn, right? We're moving on into 2022. The Browns announced today they have franchise tag David Njoku. How are you feeling right now about this team, and what are you looking forward to seeing happen here in free agency?
Yeah, I'm really happy about the news today. I'm a big David Njoku fan, and I have to tell you, when the football gods were saying, all right, how do we put together physically a tight end, I think he was number one on the production line because he's easy on the eyes as far as, when you take a look at a tight end and his body and how he puts that to work on the football field. I have always loved him, Nathan, on the, and I know there have been times where, there have been, maybe I want to be traded in a couple of seasons coming into it where he's been maybe a little bit disgruntled and didn't know what his role was going to be. But I never wanted the outcome for him to be not on the team. I think that he's a fascinating player because he can stretch the field, obviously, in today's NFL. And at that position, the tight end, he can get down those seams. I don't know that we do it enough, and I don't think we did it enough last year. I think that, physically he's a big target for a quarterback, and especially in the red zone where he's so effective.
Yep.
To me, I find that there are times that he appears in a game and then disappears in a game. And then, he'll jump into a game late. But sometimes as you go along in the season, you'll say to yourself, is he really having a good year because he's in and out of the offense? And I mean by choice probably, or what's going on in the offense. I would like to see him, to be more of a go-to guy. And I realize that they have two other tight ends, and it's a tight end-friendly offense. But he's really good. He's got a very, very unique talent. So I'm glad he's staying here. And, hopefully maybe they get a long-term deal done with him, and it's good for both sides, good for him and good for them in regards to the salary cap.
I think you're right about that. And he's improved so much as a blocker, and I think you make a great point. Right. And I kind of looked at the games where he was really, really involved, and whenever that happens, he produces if he gets the targets. And do you think that this franchise tag is a signal that, yes, we are going to substantially increase your workload, your snaps, your targets, your routes run, and turn you into a much more featured part of this offense? Because I hope it does.
I do. Yeah, and I do. I really do. I think the commitment there, just by the title of the tag, the franchise tag, means that, they definitely have plans for him. Whereas, that was kind of a question mark, especially when they brought in Austin Hooper and drafted Harrison Bryant, I'm sure Njoku, and I know he was sitting there saying, hey, what's my role? Even in the year that Freddie Kitchens was the head coach, I can remember David Njoku was a healthy scratch by the end of the season. This is a guy with amazing ability and is really quarterback friendly. I really believe that. And I think obviously as we take a look back and a look to what's going to happen this year, I mean, those passing numbers have got to perk up dramatically over where they were last year. I mean, you just look at a team that had dipped so far down the ladder in rankings in the passing situation. And I would go every week when you would be doing your boards for that upcoming week, and you'd do a statistical board week to week, and you would say, gosh, look at the amount of catches for our guys, and they're way down. And you would look at the other team, and that other team might not have the same record that the Browns. It might even be worse than the Browns at that time. And their receivers and tight ends, their numbers were so much bigger. So that definitely, and what happened today, is a step to say, hey, we realize we have to get better in the passing game. We need the right people, and that's a start with him staying here.
Yeah, Jim, that's it, and it's a tricky one. You think of Andrew Berry's first two off seasons. I mean, the first one, it's okay. We got to fix the offense. We got to protect Conklin, Wills, Hoop. All right, we're good on that front. Next off season, we need corner helps. We got to fix the defense. Newsome, JOK, Clowney, they all come into the mix. This one's a little more complicated because it is what you just said, right? And everybody we've talked to has acknowledged it. They have to fix the passing game, and there's many ways to be able to do that. Baker Mayfield's going to be the quarterback. So you've got to give him some weapons. The scouting combine was a big part of that. My guess is a draft at 13. Right. But I don't think that necessarily is all. Don't you think that this has to be even more beyond that?
Yeah, I do. I do look at the passing game, and in particular the receiver, and I think you can put an S on the end of it. I think it's plural.
Yep.
I really do. I take a look at it, Beau, and I think that you're right about, the overhaul offensively, the overhaul defensively. Okay, what about this offseason? I think it can be really position-specific, which is different than before. I mean, there were mass overhauls. We need safeties. We need pass rushers. We need a middle linebacker. We need corners, and we need offensive linemen. The year before, we need, guys like that. We need tight ends. I think this is really, now you're down to really being very position-specific. We need wide receivers, especially with OBJ gone, obviously. The Landry situation is cloudy, it seems right now. To me, it is. And even, in the reaction from him and from the team, it seems a bit cloudy. I think that you're talking about, okay, we got to get some people in here that can catch the football and, can help this team in the passing game. Because as great as that running game is, and when it's healthy, it certainly is right at the top of the league. You still have to be able to throw it, and you have to be able to be prolific in doing that, and I think that that's the target area for them. Now, there's no doubt you always want to have pass rush, and people have talked about the bumper crop of people that can get to the quarterback, and we don't know if they're going to get a deal done with Clowney. I hope they do. Tack McKinley was a great option until he had that devastating injury, last season, and I get that, but I definitely think the red light is blinking on, hey, we need help in the passing game. We need guys that can really help the quarterback and push this ball down the field and be a little bit more of a striking offense rather than an offense that just kind of grinds it on you.
You're right. And what is wild when you think back about it? Who's the best receiver that the Browns have drafted in since they've come back? I mean, it's probably Braylon, and that was one big year. Josh Gordon was in the supplemental, but this has been a franchise that has not been able to do that, to draft a difference-making receiver.
Yeah, you're right. And believe me, with Braylon, it was 1 year.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
It was.
We thought the kid Coleman was going to be a great player. Oh. That didn't pan out. You're right. I mean, that probably is about it. I mean, hopefully soon we'll look and say, wow, Donovan Peoples-Jones, imagine a 6th-round draft choice. Look at him now. I still think he's very raw. There are great moments. There are really moments where you go, wow, what a pick, and where they got him. He's going to be sensational, but there's still some work to be done there. But, yeah, now is the time, Nathan, to really go to work on that. I'm sure they will, and it's a good year to have to be able to go to that position.
Yeah, Jim, I think Nathan and I talked about this during the playoffs and after the Super Bowl, but when you looked at the teams that were competing at the end of the year for the prize that we're all trying to attain, every one of them had home run hitters. They all had a guy who could get deep and get it for 70 at any given moment.
Yeah.
The Rams, Chase, obviously Kansas City, Buffalo, all these teams have that home run ability, and it's just not something we've had here probably since Josh. Josh had that for sure, but we haven't really had that guy, and it's something that, it feels like now, Jim, it almost is a necessity. If you don't have it, I don't know how you win.
Yeah, I really think that's right, Beau. I think you do have to have it. And, you just look at that amazing game of the century between Buffalo and Kansas City and how those two teams, they were getting down the field in the last 2 minutes of that game, or maybe even I'll stretch it out to the last 5 minutes of the game. They were getting down the field in like 2 or 3 plays, and it wasn't because of big-time runs. The running game was, that was out of it at that point in that amazing playoff game. And that's what you're going to have to be able to do. You have to be able to lose, just even in a typical game. You have to be able to show some threat of being able to get down the field in one shot, one big shot to stretch it down the field, to make a defense honor that. And I don't think really for many, many, many games last season, many defenses worried a great deal about the Browns hurting them in the passing game deep.
No, there was no fear. We were seeing 9 guys in the box. There was no fear, and that's got to change. We got to always love at the Combine, get a chance to catch up with Greg Cosell. Just finished his 42nd year at NFL Films, and he said, never has it been is the passing game and the quarterback position been more important, and the teams that win are the teams that can throw the football when the other team knows they have to throw the football. And for us, we are certainly at our best when we are able to run it and then utilize play action off of that. Now, in 2020, we were a pretty good drop-back passing team over the second half of the season. And, what Greg said is an old Bill Walshism is that, yes, they work hand in hand, but you need to have your passing game be able to stand on its own 2 legs independent of your rushing game and vice versa, because there are teams that are going to take away your run. And I think your point is very well made that we need to improve throwing it. It doesn't sound like there's going to be this crazy quarterback carousel that people I think were dreaming of heading into this offseason. And so we've got to figure out how to get Baker back to where he was in 2020 and improve his supporting cast is certainly something that could be helpful to do that.
Yeah, and Nathan, if you go back to last year, and really if you look at the definition of what happened to the Browns as a team, it was the inability to win those close games.
Yep.
That's really what it was. You win 2 of them and you're in the playoffs, but they really didn't win any of them.
Yep.
But you go back to those games, and if it's a really tight game and you're down to just take it to all of those games, Kansas City, Chargers, Steelers at home, Steelers on the road, all of those games, Green Bay on Christmas Day. What did you need on those last drives? You needed a chunk play. You needed a big chunk play in the passing game to get down the field. Now, it might be a screen pass, which I believe it was to Nick Chubb early in that drive, in the last drive down in Green Bay. But still, it was through the air. But still, it would have been so much easier if you could have picked up a big play over the middle of the field or toward, wherever on the field, but get at 25, 30 yards instead of trying to grind out first downs, because the clock is against you. The timeout category is against you. And that's where a lot of those close games really are decided. The ability to get down the field and get down there on one big play so that all of a sudden you say, all right, the clock is friendlier to us right now. We're going to have 5 or 6 more plays, rather than just hoping you can get a first down on your first 4 plays of that crucial drive. And that's what they just didn't have the ability to do last year, and why a lot of those games ended up in the other column, in the loss column.
You're right, and it was right, those late game, failures and the inabilities, as you mentioned, to hit those chunk plays, and I know that that's priority 1, and if there's anything we can be comfortable with is that whatever Andrew Berry has decided was his top priority going into an offseason, he attacked it aggressively and effectively. So hopefully we'll be talking about a Browns team that is able to do that. Jim, as you kind of look around the landscape right now in our division, it seems to be kind of interesting. Cincinnati, obviously the darling. They just went to the Super Bowl. They've got Joe Burrow. They've got the receiver in Jamar Chase. They've got a lot of young, talented weapons on that offense. It feels like Pittsburgh is in a little bit of flux and will be an aggressive quarterback player. Baltimore it feels like there's some chaos brewing. That's a sense that I got at the Combine from talking to people, that things are not well in Baltimore. What's kind of your take on this division and where the Browns can fit in it, knowing that they still have a chance to have, I think, one of the more complete rosters in the league?
Well, the nice thing, and it really is, I'm going to take it as a nice thing, we're kind of quiet here right now in this offseason. Nobody's building us up to be, oh, my gosh, they're the darlings. They're the team that's going to win the division, and they're going to make a deep run, and they might win the AFC. I mean, we're not – that was us last year. Now we're kind of nose to the grindstone, which might be really our comfort zone here right now, because there is work to be done. But you're right. The Baltimore situation does look a bit chaotic with the quarterback. What's going on with him as far as getting a long-term deal done? The firing of that defensive coordinator after he was, legendary for his years there, and they had a bad year, near the end of the year last year defensively. But I mean, they had a ton of injuries. I mean, it does seem to be a bit chaotic. That's the right way to describe them. The Pittsburgh situation is amazing. Are they going to ride with the quarterbacks that they have there right now and be patient and wait for the right guy for the future? Or are they in this quarterback market that we don't know if it's going to be a frenzy or if it's going to fizzle out? Would they jump in and get, would they be somebody that would grab one of these big-name quarterbacks to come in and parlay everything into that great defense that they already have and be the Steelers of old? I mean, that's going to be very interesting. Cincinnati, it's always interesting to see how you come back after you have had, everybody goo and ga over you, and deservedly so, after the season that they had. Can you continue that? Because, they were just exceptional. Whereas we struggled in those close games, they won close games other than the last one. But are they going to be able to keep that up? Or, is everybody going to, have a target on them as we go into the season? But I kind of we are in such a different position here this offseason than we have been in the last two, but definitely last year, in that this is quiet. And quiet sometimes can catch people off guard because you get your work done and then, boom, you're ready to go at the start of the year next year. And I'm hoping that's where we're going to be.
Jim, you're the best, buddy. Good luck in the muck over the next couple of days.
That's why, you know what? I have become a mutter. No doubt about it. I am a mutter now.
That's right, a mutter. That's right. The great Jim Donovan, the voice of the Browns. Thank you, sir. Great pleasure talking to you. All right, Elk and Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk and Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Z goes one-on-one with ESPN front office insider Mike Tannenbaum on the other side of this quick timeout. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Daily time now again to get smarter about ESPN NFL analyst and friend of Good Karma Broadcasting. And Mike, first of all, just great to be back at the Combine and in person. How have you kind of enjoyed this experience so far?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, we just did some shows on ESPN in person. It's great to be around people again, and probably something we all took for granted. And it's just great. A lot of energy here, and it's a great time of year. They had was going to get a big deal, and getting trades done, you want to see your surplus and needs and who that matched up with, if there was anybody. So it was sort of like the workouts were like last, and then it was like the make sure the physicals were done by the medical department, talking to agents, talking to other teams.
As you see kind of this stuff evolve, and the Combine has changed so much in the last decade, what do you kind of think of just what it's become?
Yeah, it's an unbelievable spectacle. I would say walking over here, you almost feel like you're at the Super Bowl now. Like, this is like Radio Row 2.0. I just think it speaks to the popularity of sport. We see baseball right now with a lockout. And if the most popular sport in our country is pro football, the second most popular sport is college football, and you combine the two right here.
Certainly do. You look at this Browns team 2 years ago, great season in 2020. You go to the playoffs for the first time in a long time, win a playoff game. You got the coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski. Andrew Berry's doing a very good job. Make great moves in the offseason last year. Everybody's bought in, right? The Browns are going to be a real contender. It doesn't work out that way. Injuries and a variety of factors, but a disappointing season. How do you kind of deal with that organizationally, and what's kind of the mindset that you must take?
Yeah, look, it starts at the quarterback position, and I think they've done a really good job of putting meaningful pieces all around the roster. I think it starts up front, and you look at their lines. Now, look, they got to re-sign a couple players, and Jadeveon Clowney, most notably, in my opinion, but I think the foundation is there. Now they got to get the quarterback piece right.
And part of that, right, is also just the passing game. That's what we've been talking a lot about. The passing game needs to evolve to the point where you can compete with Burrow and Mahomes and Herbert and Allen and Lamar Jackson. With this class receivers, there seem to be quite a few of them. The Browns clearly have a need there. Is that one of those things where, you can almost pencil that in?
I would think so. If not in the first, certainly, the second round from a standpoint, like their needs and the boards really fit up well. And I think what's great, if I'm Andrew Berry, I'm thinking like, well, we could certainly draft a receiver, so let's try to attack some of these other things in free agency, because what we need and how the draft lines up really matches up well for them.
And how do you kind of do that framework when you're going through it and putting together an off-season plan? Because, when you're at the Combine, everybody's talking draft. But to your point exactly, in March, prior to the draft, in fact, a month before the draft, there will be free agency. And so your needs today are not going to be your needs in 1 month. How do you kind of map that out in the plans of attack?
Yeah, I always say your plan has to be firmly etched in pencil, because there are going to be unexpected opportunities. Players are going to get cut in a couple of weeks that, we're going to sit here and say, like, boy, can you believe that happened? And that's why you want to go in with one plan. And again, Cleveland has such a good roster. Like, taking care of their own now is as important as anything. And again, they've done a good job in that area as well.
And it feels like you're hearing more about Marcus Mariota and Mitch Trubisky at this Combine than you're hearing about the quarterbacks in this draft.
Well, I think that just tells you where we are with things, right? That there's a reason for that, Nathan, and that's because the best quarterbacks available are on the pro side right now. And I think Trubisky, Mariota, those guys could wind up, with really good situations. And Jimmy G's another one we got to closely monitor.
So I want to ask you this, because I find kind of what's happening with Mitch Trubisky fascinating, in a sense that a year ago the whole league had a chance to sign him, evaluate him. He gets a 1 year, $2.5 million deal, and now it feels like by being in Buffalo for a year not playing, it's kind of the unknown, but the theoretical development, and it's almost a PR campaign they're doing for him, which is very nice of them. Maybe they want a comp pick, and maybe that's kind of their motivation in the back of their mind. But is there any? Do you remember a situation quite like this where a guy could have gone anywhere, right? Kind of had a little bit of, I guess, there wasn't great vibes about him. Obviously, 1 year, $2.5 million, goes to Buffalo, backs up, and now he's a pretty hot name. And I know it speaks to the fact that 12, maybe even 20 teams really need quarterbacks.
Yeah, and he didn't play poorly in Chicago. There were some real signs of encouragement. And again, it goes back to supply and demand. Like, in a perfect world, would a team want to say, hey, we're going to go draft Kenny Pickett and we'll live happily ever after? But Mitch Trubisky probably has more upside than Kenny Pickett, and that just says a lot about the draft. And again, when you look at the Kyler Murrays of the world, they're not going to go anywhere, because Kyler Murray would be the first pick in this year's draft. He'd be the first pick in next year's draft.
Which is an interesting thing, and we'll see. Hopefully that gets resolved for the Arizona Cardinals. But do you think we're seeing an evolution of the game and for general managers where there is now, and we know it's a passing league and it's kind of been trained that way a long time, but right now, to win, you need to be able to throw the ball when they know you have to throw the ball. You need a receiver that it feels like is a game changer and can cause schematic issues for opposing defenses. And then you got to get after the quarterback and stop him on the back end. But is that the meat of the league now, and maybe receivers even taking on more importance than even a decade ago?
Yeah, I think, going back to talking about Buffalo, Josh Allen's trajectory was on the way up. They get Stephon Diggs. It goes to a whole nother level. So I do think you need a difference-making one. And look, Jarvis Landry's a really, really good player, one that I'm sure they're thrilled to have. But you get another number one with him, you're going to make Jarvis Landry a lot better. Now some more of the attention's going to go someplace else, and Jarvis, especially working out of the slot, could really defeat man-to-man a lot of the time. So I think he's going to make other players around them better. And again, we got to see what they do with people like Njoku. But absolutely, if they could get a bona fide difference-making one, that would really help.
In this draft, it feels like, as we talked about earlier, the need matches up, and it feels like there's some talent. And from the people I've talked to, there's no consensus. Some people love Garrett Wilson. Some people love Treylon Burks. Some like Drake London. That it's different flavors, but a lot of talent at that spot in this draft.
And throw in Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson's teammate. So, and then, you look at, Jamison Williams, who probably would have been the first one if he was healthy. John Mechie, another Alabama receiver that's been hurt. So there's a lot of them, and the next few days will help sort that out.
When you go through this, and as a team, right, I love all these guys. How does it actually get to the point where you get to the board and you separate these ties that are either stylistic, scheme fit, things like that?
Yeah, it could be small benefits of the doubt of character, injury, scheme fit, size, how good was the quarterback they played with. There's a lot of different variables.
If you looked at the Browns and you've talked about Andrew Berry and the job that he's done, what's one of the things that you like about the way that he's kind of organizing our operation here?
Yeah, I think he's really brought the noise down. I think it's a really well-run organization, and that's more of an intangible. But they've really, they've stacked a number of good picks together. I like the John Johnsons of the world that are like smart signings, the Caruso or Coromoas of the world where, hey, you guys there? They're adding quality players, quality people.
Yep.
I really like it. All right.
We'll be back with more Cleveland Browns Daily.
And you guys are up.
All right, we are back, and we have a very special guest on the hotline. You might say an awesome guest, as The Miz is joining Cleveland Browns Daily right now, live from the site of Monday Night Raw right here at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland tonight. What's up, brother?
I always think of it as the Q or the gun. I'm still not used to the Rocket, I don't even know the name to be, the Rocket Field
Rocket
House.
Mortgage Fieldhouse. No, I had to think about it, too, because it's the
Mortgage
Q would be
Fieldhouse.
the first thing that would just flow right out of my mouth. I agree.
Q's just so easy to say.
Yeah.
But, dude, I'm excited about being back in Cleveland. Every time I fly into, this city, it's just there's something that, that gravitates toward it. I get goosebumps and, your heart, skips a beat because, you're home.
Yeah.
And I love being home. I love stepping into this arena. And I'm super excited about tonight. Raw is going to be insane. Besides myself, Logan Paul is also a hometown boy. So we're both coming in, and it's a nice little homecoming that we're going to have here on Monday Night Raw. So it's going to be pretty great.
It's good. And then a special appearance by another friend of the show, Jerry the King Lawler, tonight, all going down here in Cleveland as you are firmly on the road to WrestleMania, which is the Super Bowl of professional wrestling, as it were. And you've got a big yourself and Logan Paul teaming up to take on the Mysterios, Rey Mysterio's son, Dominic. I remember when Rey Mysterio was in a ladder match with Eddie Guerrero, may he rest in peace, for the custody of Dominic. And now they're going to be a team together at WrestleMania taking you guys on. How did this all come to be? How did you get Logan Paul in the mix?
Dude, you remember that. I remember being backstage and seeing Dominic at age 10 and literally going up to him going, who's your favorite wrestler? And him being like, my dad. And then me saying well, I'm going to go beat up your dad right now. So I remember those days. And the way this all came about is, every time I go into or step into an arena, it doesn't matter any city, I get booed out of the building. And I feel like I never get the respect. And I do things, now granted, I do things underhanded. I do things to try to win. Will I cheat? Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. But it's what you have to do in order to win. I have a winner's mentality. You do everything you possibly can to win. And it seems to me whenever I do things to win, I'm booed for it. But if Rey Mysterio does the same exact thing, he's cheered.
They love him.
Loved.
It's not fair.
So I'm
it's not fair.
Sick and tired of it. I want my respect. I deserve my respect. And honestly, I think tonight I will get the respect and the cheers that I know I should have because I'm in my hometown. I'm a Cleveland-bred boy.
Yeah, and I hope that you do get that respect. I know that the Browns are sending some swag your way. I've got to go pick that up from Brad Melland and take it down to the arena tonight. Very excited to go and see you. You've had a lot of great moments have happened here in Cleveland, and I know, look, you said you should get cheers. I would imagine so. Your dad has requested basically every ticket in the building, so it should be stacked with loyalists here today.
That is 100% true. My dad always asks for 1 million tickets, so I have to pay for a bunch of tickets and get a bunch of tickets for him. So it's absolutely ridiculous. Like usually people are like, "Yeah, I'll take 3 or 4 tickets." My dad's like, "Yeah, I need 100," and I'm like, "Dad, you can't just ask for 100 tickets. Like you just can't. Like that's not reasonable." Well, I know a lot of people out here in Cleveland. No, you don't. You just hand them out to everyone. It was another thing my dad wanted to do. My dad's like, "I want to buy a billboard for you," and I'm like, "What?" I want a billboard. Dad, I don't need a billboard. Like, yeah. And he goes, I need a picture of you. And you can't just have any picture and put it up on a billboard.
Right.
It has to be a picture that has enough pixels so it doesn't look pixelated. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, oh my God. It's just one thing after another. Honestly, coming home, as much as I love it, it also is a lot of stress because of one man in Mr. Miz, George Mizanin.
That's right, Mr. Miz, George Mizanin, also a friend of this program and a budding star in his own right. Now, you did something cool over the weekend with Celebrity Family Feud?
Yeah, we did Celebrity Family Feud.
How great was that?
Dude. It is so freaking hard. We were practicing. My whole family was practicing. And, when you're practicing at home, you're like, oh, we might do okay. And then when you get there, you're on the spot and you're thinking of something and you're like, oh, my God, like you just draw blanks. But then by the time in the middle of the game, you start getting it and you're like, oh, this is how the game's played. Okay, now I understand. You start learning things. But by then it's too late. So, we go up against the Mysterios, which is going to be a blast. And I can't tell you exactly what happens, whether we win, whether we lose. But I will say this: it is definitely an entertaining show, and it's for charity. So
that's awesome.
It's pretty great.
You should have linked your dad's ticket request to his performance on the feud. You deliver a good performance here. The better you do, the more tickets you get.
Like, how do you think he would do on Family Feud?
I think he'll be entertaining. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Exactly.
He will say something crazy. He will say something completely off the rails insane, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Of course. I literally, at one point, I said to Steve, I go, can you take out their microphone? Can you turn off their microphone? Like, between him and Margeau, I was like, oh my God, turn off their microphones, please.
It's enough. It's enough. So getting to come home, and you've had some, like I said, some great moments here. This seems to be a very frequent stop this time of year on the road to WrestleMania. I know you had the great stuff with Shane McMahon on the way to your match with Shane McMahon at Mania. We're going to have tonight. Is there something that's cool? Because I'm sure coming to Cleveland would be cool no matter when it is. But when you come and it's kind of in this.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, to come home and to be here. And honestly, the reason why WWE always stops in Cleveland is because of the fan base. We have such an electric fan base. There's such an energy in this arena every time we come here. And the fans are always very supportive. They're interactive. They're fun. They get it. Like, they boo who they hate. They cheer who they love. Luckily, I'm a hometown boy, so they love me.
That's right.
But, it's an incredible place to stop. I mean, honestly, you go to a Browns game, and literally the place is pandemonium. It's absolutely insanity. Whether the Browns are doing great or even the Browns are not doing great, it doesn't matter. The fans still show up day in and day out. And honestly, I can't wait for this next season. I can't wait for Baker to be fully 100% healthy. I hope they bring in some competition because I feel like Baker is best with a chip on his shoulder. And I love the fact that they gave Njoku, an extension.
Yeah,
on
franchise tag.
And, hopefully we can do some great things with him and get and add on some, key players from the draft. I mean, I'm looking at, Ohio State's wide receiver, at the draft. I was looking at that and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson, Olave. Sure. Yeah, did you get a chance to take in any of the combine? Were you able to watch any of that?
A little bit. I saw bits and pieces of it. There were some defensive players, linemen that were just being absolutely fast. I could not believe it. They're fast.
Setting records.
And they're like 350 pounds.
Yeah. It's going to be good. And for the Browns, you mentioned it, wide receiver, the defensive line, those are probably, the top areas. We got a chance to talk with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski there in Indy, and that pretty much felt like that was the sense of things because, as you know now, we got to deal with Burrow and the Bengals, who just went to the Super Bowl. We're going to have to be able to throw the ball around the yard and getting Baker back to 100%, getting him some weapons. And we're right there. If we just won a couple of those close games last year, could have been a playoff team. So you're still feeling optimistic. I like that. I like hearing that from you.
I'm not only feeling optimistic, I think we are in good hands. And it's probably the first time that I truly believe, and I think other people believe, that we have a great coach. And we have, a great general manager that knows how to gain players and get players. And I think that we have a coach that I think people trust and believe in. You're not hearing, oh, he has no idea what he's doing. This is terrible. You're hearing he's a great coach. We just got to figure out how to win. You know, and for the past 2 years, he's done very well. In the first year on the job, I mean, he's coach of the year.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too shabby. Not too shabby for Kevin Stefanski. You're exactly right. By the way, speaking of around the time when he was coach of the year, you won the WWE title for a second time, and you got that. I got that great T-shirt, that iconic image of you holding up that title. What was it like to kind of get that second run with the belt, knowing that the first one came a while ago, WrestleMania? You were the champ in Atlanta, WrestleMania 27, 10 years, and then to get that again. What did that mean to you?
Oh, man, it was incredible because sometimes, in WWE, you never know, where the wave is going, and you never know when your number is going to get called. But you're always prepared, and you're always ready, and you're always ready to work. And that's what I've always, done. So even if I'm not WWE champion, I'm striving to be it. So when my number is called, I am up, I'm ready, I'm prepared, and I will make something out of it. And honestly, I had the title for 8 days. But let's face it, in those 8 days, I made the most of those days.
You did.
There was huge buzz. The ratings went up. It was an incredible match, and it was an incredible lead up to a match. And we built an absolute monster in Bobby Lashley, who beat me fairly easily. But that's what was necessary at the time, and that's what we got done. And I was just proud to be able to call myself a 2-time WWE champion, and the only think about all the superstars that are in WWE and WWE history. I am the only 2-time Grand Slam champion in the history of the company.
Yeah,
me,
you,
of all people.
That's
you would
right.
Think, John Cena, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. No, me.
And you have worked very, very hard. You have deserved it all, and it is awesome to see, and can't wait for you to steal the show again at Mania. Last year, you were in the celebrity match on the other side of it. This year, you get to do it as your teammate with Logan Paul. It's going to be awesome. Yeah,
it's going to be amazing. Cleveland's finest taking on, I guess San Diego's finest, if you will. Because, I mean, that's where Ray's from and his son is from. So it's going to be Cleveland versus Ohio versus Cali. And I plan on taking it to them. I'm not going to look like the Cincinnati Bengals out there. I'm going to look like the Rams, if you will.
There you go.
So, yeah, I plan on winning. Logan plans on winning. And, honestly, I've been training with Logan for a little bit now, and the guy's a natural. And
what's that like?
He's focused. Oh, he's focused. He's laser focused. He's a very, very, a lot of people look at him as his character, on the shows, but when you meet him, you can see the seriousness and how much he takes, pride in everything that he does, no matter what. And that's why the things that he does, they succeed.
Yep.
Whether you want to knock him or not, you look at him, he went the distance with Floyd Money Mayweather, arguably pound for pound the greatest fighter in the world. And he boxed him, And literally, it was a huge, huge buy rate. Everybody wanted to watch. Everybody wanted to see. And it was a great boxing match. And he surprises people every single time.
And so do you.
Kind of like myself.
I was going to say, there are a lot of parallels in there in terms of just putting in the work and making sure and the dedication to make sure whatever you do ends up being successful. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tonight, 8 p.m., Monday Night Raw, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Be there or be square. And if you can't get tickets, call George Mazanin. He probably has some. He's the only one that might have tickets at this point.
Come watch Cleveland's finest, Logan Paul and The Miz. And go Browns. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for calling in, brother. I'll see you tonight, and let's go. All right. The Miz, you never know what's going to happen here on Cleveland Browns Daily in the offseason. You got to love that. Calling in. We'll be back with more CBD right after this.
Well, for Indy East 4th, excited to be part of the great story of East 4th Street, bringing a music-themed atmosphere with Southern comfort cuisine and a rooftop patio bar to East 4th Street. Boy, you thought about that rooftop patio bar this weekend when it was in the 70s. Going to be a fun summer there. Offering unique menu items paired with barrel-aged cocktails, brought to you by the owners of Char Whiskey Bar and Grill and Avo Modern Mexican. Come in on Saturdays for Indy's Grunge Brunch, Saturdays 10 to 3. Indy is hiring now as well. Stop into Indy on East 4th Street to apply. Learn more at Indy East 4th on social for more. We're headed for some shakeups on the way that we consume our games. We know that Aikman is heading to ESPN. It hasn't officially been announced, but also I saw this morning, quote, major horse trading happening between ESPN and Fox to potentially reunite Buck with Aikman at ESPN.
What?
And I was shocked. Yeah, I mean, I just thought, like, from Buck's perspective, if you're Fox, $22 million a year. I mean, like, what would be a number that would? There's no number that would be too high.
So who would be going to Fox from ESPN?
I have no idea. I have no idea who that would be. I don't know who would have the gravity at ESPN to be able to call the World Series in the NFL.
Wow.
I mean, Buck's doesn't he have like 3 of the next 5 Super Bowls? Because how the rotation works?
Yeah.
I think he does. He's got 3 out of 5, at least 2 out of the next 5, but I think it's 3 is the way the rotation works, and he does the World Series every year. I realize the World Series isn't what it used to be, but still, there's nothing bigger than that.
No.
When you're talking about the NFL.
You floored me with this news.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they're just trying. Maybe Buck's using it as a negotiating ploy to get Fox to pay. He just has 1 year left on his contract. The other thing that I saw this morning was it sounds like Kirk Herbstreit's going to be the next guy at Amazon. So he will, or the first guy at Amazon, I should say. It's going to be him and Al Michaels on Thursday Night Football on Amazon.
Yeah, how about that?
According to Peter King.
Yeah, that was the word at the Combine. I'd heard that from a couple people as well. I think that's going to be good. I think that will be good. Herbie is excellent. Does this mean do you think he'll still do college on the weekends?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be
I think he's going to double dip. I think it actually works out perfect for double dipping from his perspective because he can prep the NFL games Tuesday, Wednesday, call the game Thursday, and then fly to the college site for Saturday and do the Saturday. Now, I don't know if he'll do college game day anymore, but he can still do the Saturday night game. He'd have basically 2 days to prep for each game, 2 days on the NFL, 2 days on college. And it doesn't impact his money from ESPN, so he's going to be able to double dip financially. My guess is it's possible that that Amazon is going to pay him more to do this than he currently makes from ESPN.
Yeah, I would think so, which will create it's great for him. I mean, that is going to be lucrative for him.
Oh, jeez.
I think he and Al Michaels will make it. I think that's a nice match.
Oh, for sure. Al will like working with him because he's just got he's just a glowing personality. Like it's hard not to be around him, and he's just a good dude, you know? Like he's always in a good mood, like he's a solid dude. So I think and he'll be excited to work with Al Michaels. I mean, my goodness, the first, full-time pairing in the NFL and it's you and Al Michaels on Thursday night. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. So you're saying
plus he gets his feet in at Amazon. Now that's maybe all he needs to do.
So you've got Michaels and Herbstreit on Amazon for Thursday nights.
Yeah.
You're going to have Tirico and Collinsworth. Is that what it's going to be?
Yeah, Tirico and Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football. You have Aikman on Monday Night Football, but you don't know who with because then Brian Griese took the job with the Niners. So Aikman's going to be on Sunday night, but you don't know who, or on Monday night, but who knows who he's with. But apparently ESPN is trying to get Joe Buck, and I would think that if they are trying that aggressively to get Joe Buck, that they would make him the face of the network. They'd have to.
Yeah,
you'd
have
to
to
do everything.
And
does he want to do NBA Finals? Does he want to do I don't know. I don't know what his interest is.
So then
it feels like his gig is perfect right now. At Fox.
Yeah, Nance and Romo at CBS, and then at Fox you'd have
all starting new,
which is a wild position for Fox to be in.
It really is. They don't have anybody in the hopper from a young talent standpoint that would be the number one team if Buck isn't it.
I just can't imagine Joe Buck not being on Fox.
He has been the face of Fox broadcast, the only face of Fox broadcast and Fox Sports.
Yeah.
Him alone.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's not going to be. It's pretty wild, honestly, to try to wrap your head around it. But that's where you're at. That's where we're standing. All right, still so much more to come. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Buying or sell a home with Howard Hanna Real Estate Services, always a winning strategy. If you plan to make a move this season, they're going to have you covered at Howard Hanna. Every day is game day. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. That is all for us. The next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Z's finger will get better. Hopefully my throat as well. We'll be back tomorrow. We appreciate you listening, though.
Yes.
Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.